Okay, so we are back to chapter 12, and I don't want to spend more than one day on this. Okay, tough perek, man. Tough perek. Okay.
Not what we think it is anyway. So.
What was it?
Not what we think.
Oh, is that? Did I write that on the thing? Okay, yeah. All right. So
let's talk about it.
okay, so let me tell you let me tell you how this is going to go down. Okay, so Ken and I worked on it some more, and felt like we had a lot of half ideas, but weren't getting like the main thing. And the approaches that we had were not coming to fruition, even though they felt very, very like rowy for, developing. And then almost on a whim, I said like, you know what, let's just do the Malbim, because then at least we'll get like an entire approach. And it happened to be that the Malbim gave a really, really good interpretation that was all consistent, but seemingly not related at all to the way that we were thinking. Okay, so the good news is like at the end of the day, we're going to go through the Malbim and like he's going to make everything better. Okay, but it's a very different approach than the approach that we took, and that I don't think any of us were taking this approach. Okay, but it works. But what I want to do is I want to go through and try to develop an approach on our own, because either we're going to get one, or you're going to feel the need for a good approach, and then the Malbim is going to like satisfy that need. Okay. All right, so let's go over the facts again. Oh, and I cleaned up the translation, and I also like cleaned up the questions which are on the back. Okay, so so that's the same. Hoshia Hashem, ki gamar chasi, ki fasu emunim mi bnei adam. Save Hashem, for the extra righteous has come to an end. Has come to an end. For the faithful have vanished from mankind. Shav yidaberu ish esri ehu sfas chalakos. Each man speaks falsehood with his fellow. Smooth talking lips, believe valev yadaberu, with a heart and heart they speak. Two hearts they speak. Okay? I think heart and heart is the literal translation. Yachris Hashem kol sifsa chalakos, which means may Hashem cut off, or Hashem will cut off. It's machlokes whether it's lashon tefillah or lashon nevuah. May Hashem cut off all sifsa chalakos, all smooth talking lips. Lashon medaberes gedolos, a tongue that speaks grandiloquently. Okay, I was trying to find a way to say haughtily, but to incorporate the word big, and that was the best term I can use. Okay, and also you'll see when we do the Malbim, it fits in really well. I didn't translate it based on the Malbim. Okay,
I had to Google that word, by the way.
What was it?
Is that a real word?
It's a real word. Yeah. Let's Google it now.
Grandiosely fit.
Grandiloquently. Yeah, grandiloquently. Lofty, extravagantly colorful, pompous or bombastic manner or quality, especially in language. Yeah, right. So I wanted like pompous speech. What do you say, grandiosely? I think I tried grandiosely.
Did you know that word before?
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
okay.
Impressive because of uncommon largeness, scope, effect, or grandeur. Not haughty. Yeah. I think I tried this, and I was like, no, there's got to be a word that uses the word grand or big. That means arrogantly. Okay. So yeah, and then it goes on to describe these people. Asher Amru, that they say, Lilu Shonenu Nagbir, with our tongues we will prevail. Our lips are with us. Mi Adon Lanu, who is Lord over us? 6. Mishod anim mi enkas avionim, because of plunder of the poor, because of the outcry of the destitute. Ata akum Yomar Hashem. Now I will arise, says Hashem. Ashis b'yesha yafiach lo. I will firmly establish salvation, he will utter regarding him. And then we found another translation also. Yafiach could either be from lashon of like to speak or to utter, or it could be lashon pach, to lay a trap. So it could be, or he will set a trap for him. Meaning he'll set a trap for like these bad guys. Imros Hashem amaros tahoros. Hashem's sayings are pure sayings. Kesef tsaruf ba'aliyah la'aretz, silver refined in a kiln in the earth, which apparently is like a good way to refine silver. Mizukak shivasayim, refined sevenfold, purified sevenfold. Ata Hashem tishmerim, you Hashem will guard them. Titzrenu min hador zu le'olam, you will preserve him from this generation forever. Savi b'rosham yishalachun, the wicked will walk around and around. Kurum zulus libnei adam, which either means when baseness is exalted among mankind, or like a wild ravenous animal among mankind, or when a man who is low in people's eyes is raised up, or like a leech that sucks the blood of man. Okay, so you'll notice, so that was a review of the psukim. Okay, so really quickly run through the questions here, and I put them in order. Okay, so question 1 is on the whole thing. Which mode is this? Is this biographical David mode? If so, when in his life is this about? Is this historical about Bnei Israel? If so, is it about the past? Is it about the future? If so, when? Is it universal ideas that can apply to all people? Okay, then a question on pasuk 2, what exactly is the threatening situation that we're asking Hashem to save these people from? Who are we asking Hashem to save? Okay, save. 2, how can you say there are no more Hasidim and trustworthy people and everybody speaks falsehood? Is this literal? In which case, I guess even he himself maybe is not included in this category, or is it hyperbole, something else? Like, is he just expressing his feeling that there's no trustworthy people? Then we have in Psukim 3 through 5, what exactly are the qualities of the speakers that are being highlighted here? What is the connection between their statement in Pasuk Hey and their philosophy and or values? Pasuk Hey is when they say, with their tongues we will prevail. 4, what are we asking or saying that Hashem will do? What is meant by cutting off lips and tongue? We noted last time, I think, that when you cut off the lips, it's like a mita connect and mita thing, because that's what they use to sin. But also, if you cut off someone's lips and tongues, then they can't really talk. So it's like also debilitating them. But what does that mean? Like, I don't think it's literal. 6, what does the theme of Lashon Hara speakers have to do with the salvation of the poor? This is going to be a major question here, right? So for Pasuk 6. And yeah, that's like, we noticed that that's the two don't seem to go hand in hand. Another question on Vav is, why is Hashem responding to the oppression of the poor? Why is he depicted this way of like getting up, and what exactly is Hashem doing practically? Pasuk 7, what sayings of Hashem is this talking about? We mentioned it might be talking about the sayings of now I will arise, or is it talking like about other sayings? Is it talking about, just how Hashem speaks in general? What is it saying about them? Why is it talking about this here? Who is saying these statements, Hashem or people? Okay, then this question was sent in, which is, why is an analogy given for how Hashem's statements are pure? Aren't they intrinsically pure? Like, why do you have to say that they're purified sevenfold and in a kiln? It's oddly specific. And you shouldn't need to purify Hashem's statements. Like, in other words, they should just automatically be pure. On Pasuk 8, what is meant by guard him from this generation forever? That seems like a contradiction. If it's this generation, then it's not forever. Okay, but you say you had another reading of that last time?
With Pasuk?
8. Or someone said, I just couldn't remember it when I was writing the questions. You will preserve him from this generation forever. I'm saying it's a contradiction because forever means like beyond this generation. And yeah, okay, fine. And then the last, oh no, we got more. Oh no, is this it? No, there's more. 11, is the salvation in 8 the same as in 2? Or are we saying guard him so that he doesn't need salvation? Is it like preemptive? Pasuk 9, given the wide machlokas in the last half of the final pasuk, do we assume that all these are completely different ideas, or are these just minor nuanced different takes and they're just choosing the mashal differently? Last 2 questions are general. Why is there no reference here to people who have the opposite of these evil values? Right, usually we contrast the Rishaim with the tzaddikim, and David usually sides with the tzaddikim and says, look, I'm like this, so save me, but there's no plea that invokes any value of Hashem, of like truth or Kiddush Hashem. 14, last question is, if according to Mishlei, these Lashon Hara speakers are ultimately going to destroy themselves, which is what all the Psukim in Mishlei say, why does David have to ask Hashem to intervene? A lot of questions here. Okay, so what do you got? Yeah, Ariel.
All right, I was thinking actually about question number 6.
Okay.
And it seems like like the thing could be like oppression.
Oppression, right?
Yeah, like when like when we were oppressed, like in Mitzrayim, for instance.
Yeah.
Or just in general, like when the rich oppresses the poor, because of their status and whatever. Like I think, in a sense, you could say that when people are speaking Lashon Hara, like you are oppressing other people in some way.
Right.
That's all I had.
Okay, so we touched on this theme last time, but I just want to highlight it again. The place you see this in Torah, where am I looking at in Mishpatim? Anyone know?
Oh, Chav that or Chav Tali?
Yeah.
I think it's Chav that.
I think it's Chav that also.
Okay, yeah. Yud Zayin through Chav that.
Okay,
no, I messed up last time. It's Yud Tet through Chav that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Wait, Yud.
Yeah, Yud Tet through Chav Dalet.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. V'ger lo sonev lo silchatenu ki gerem hisim beretz Mitzrayim. Very good. Do not oppress a stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. Kol almana v'yasam lo sa'anun. Do not oppress, don't afflict any widow or orphan. Im anes aneoso. If you will surely afflict him, im tzok yitzak elai. he will cry out to me, Shemo Eshma Tzaka. So I will certainly hear his outcry. My wrath will flare, and I will kill you by the sword. And your wives will become widows, and your children will become orphans. So there's this idea of Hashem responding to the poor, not because of their zechus, but because of they're being oppressed. So you mentioned Mitzrayim, that's one example. I think I mentioned last time that's why Hashem intervened with the Mabul, because the strong were oppressing the weak. That's why he intervened in Sodom and Amorah, because people were being taken advantage of, and that's why he intervened in Nineveh, is because of the Hamas that was going on. So that we know that is a pattern that Hashem intervenes when there are people being oppressed.
So I think over here. I think maybe to answer Adler's first question.
Okay, what is the main? What is the perek saying as a whole? Yeah,
the perek as a whole is God saves from oppression.
Okay, and so you're saying that the connection between the two themes are Lashon Hara people are oppressive.
Yes.
Okay, and then these are the people who are their victims.
And David Melech is concerned about the people being oppressed.
Yeah.
Save the oppressed people.
Okay, so I think that's a good general approach. Okay, good. All right. We got a piece of here to work with. This is what I meant, by the way, when I said nice half ideas that lend themselves to approaches that Ken and I weren't able to develop, but maybe other people will. Okay, I think next was Tamar. Oh, but sorry, before you say Tamar, I wanted to mention I de-highlighted these because I now am realizing that I'm not certain where the pivot is, right? So just to remind you, one possible pivot we had was 1 through 5 is describing the bad guys, and then 6 through 9 is describing like Hashem saving the poor. Because I realized that there's multiple viable ways. I mean, we said this last time also, but now I'm like equal possibilities. Another possibility is 1 through 6 is talking about like the situation that Hashem is addressing. Then 7 is talking about Hashem's statements, and that's like a different thing. We also mentioned that maybe 1 through 3 is describing the bad guys, and then 4 through the end is talking about what Hashem will do in response. So like, just keep those in mind. Okay, yeah, tomorrow.
I have 2 things. One of them I think is a development of Ariel's idea, and one of them is a different idea.
Okay, sure.
I think it's different. So the development of what Ariel was saying, I think is in the theme of like oppression.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, I mean, maybe this is just what oppression is, but I think that both with Lashon Hara and with the poor, there's like this appearance that there's going to be no one can like strike back at you.
Okay, right. Yeah. Okay, good. So you want to add to that, David?
Yeah, I mean, it starts the same way, but it winds up in a different idea, so I can hold on.
Okay, so hold off then. Yeah. Okay, good. I also have something on that, but it ends up in a different idea. Okay, so in other words, these are people who are abusing the poor, and I mean, this is a general thing why you abuse the poor, because no one cares about the poor, so no one's going to come to the defense. Tamara, are you saying something specifically connecting to the Lashon Hara aspect, or is that just
Well, I think that Lashon Hara. Okay, so I guess you can say Lashon Hara to someone's face, but I think that in general, it feels like this sneaky thing where you can just get away with it.
Okay, right.
Like,
so
there's not, especially if the victim is not there.
Okay, right. So just to bolster that, on this week's Parsha, where we talk about Lashon Hara, if you look through Kedoshim, there are a lot of Ani Hashems, okay? And if you look at all the Rashis, Rashi will always emphasize, what was it? Yeah, not Neman L'Shalom Sachar, or to punish, that God is trustworthy to reward or to punish. And why does God have to remind you that he rewards and punishes? Because it's something usually that you feel is not going to be punished, or that the human courts can't enforce. And surprise, surprise, it says that on Lo Selech Rach B'Yamecha Lo Samad Adam Recha Ani Hashem, right? Because people do feel like you can get away with the Lashon Hara, especially if it's not being detected about who's saying it. And Hashem saying, no, I got this one. Yeah. Tamara, what was your second approach?
Okay, so this is more speculative. Because I'm not sure if it's really just something that is only true about Lashon Hara and oppressing the poor.
Yeah.
But I think I was just thinking about like plunder of the poor, and I was kind of thinking like what state of mind a person has to be in to do that.
Yeah.
And I think that, so I think maybe this isn't exactly the right way to say it, but like the person would have to kind of feel like other people are like not important or something like that, like really like feel like they're superior to other people, because like, if a guy is poor and you take from him, then that's just like a very cruel thing to do, and you must really not be caring about other people's basic needs. And I feel like with lashon hara, maybe it's like a means to get into that headspace a little bit. I'm not sure, but I feel like it relates to that dynamic.
I think I got your intuitive current here, right? You have to completely dehumanize them and view yourself as superior, and lashon hara definitely caters to that, right? Yeah, if you want to add to that, or do you have a different one? Yeah,
I was what Tamar just said. That's what led me to my idea.
So right.
I'm curious, like why Tamar? Why are you saying that's a new idea? Just curious, like what's the?
No, she started off by saying that this is building up. Oh, you mean the second one?
She first built mine. She said it was a new idea.
You mean the second one? Oh, you're saying that the second one's connected.
Point was how I got to my idea.
Okay, fine.
Curious, like what the nuance differences are. But whatever.
Okay. Yeah. Let me. I just want to say my also thing that's similar to this. And then we'll transition to David next. Is that that a lashon hara in a certain sense is like an opportunist. He's gonna wait and see when can I get away with it, and lying is an easy way to get away with it because people don't see what you're actually doing. So if you can manipulate people's perceptions so that they don't detect that you're doing anything wrong, or they don't detect that you have a sinister motive, then you'll seize that opportunity. Those are the same types of people who will pick on the poor because no one's going to catch them. In other words, the main thing is if I can get away with it, then I'll do it. And lashon hara is a tool for that. And the poor is a class of people who are ripe for that kind of like abuse. Okay, so I think that's like in line with these approaches, but yeah, David.
Okay, so there's one movement I think it could further this idea, or also one different idea. That is, what is David's argument to God here?
Okay.
And instead of making my own idea up, I'm just gonna quote pasuk bet, which is exactly David saying, "See Hashem, for the act of righteousness has come to an end, for the people have vanished from mankind."
Yeah.
So I think quite directly David is saying why God should answer him through.
Yeah.
So I think you either take it down this road further and say that it's because of oppression of the poor.
Yeah.
And somehow because that no good people are going to come out through there. Or you could also then I think go to, and that would just be like a more like societal level.
Yeah.
Trying to have that happen to the poor. I think you could also take it a little bit of a different route then and say that this is David Melech requires maybe Kiddush Hashem or something else of that sort. That that people think because they're able to get away with these things or other things like that, if they're just say let the Mishlei things play out, that's not going to be evident that God's hand is also present.
Okay, can you guys hear on the thingy? Yeah, okay. Okay, so just to repeat, David's saying that there's two arguments David is Hamelech is making, that there's that the righteous have come to an end, and therefore no one's going to help these poor. The implication is if you had a group of the righteous, then maybe they can stop the wicked, or maybe they can change the trend. That's kind of like the Sodom and Gomorrah argument of like, what's the critical mass of tzaddikim that is needed in order to save the society? The other argument is a Kiddush Hashem type thing, where if the poor are being victimized, then people will think that there is no justice and you can get away with it. I agree with both arguments. I think the first one is more justifiable from the Psukim because, like you mentioned last time, he doesn't overtly highlight the Kiddush Hashem argument, So I think that's what I would say about that. Akiva, yeah.
Just to maybe a different idea for the poor.
Yeah.
Can the poor be the people who are being affected by the lashon hara?
Yes, yeah. I think that is what we are saying. Yeah, they're the ones.
Not just that they're poor people and then they're being affected by these type of people. I mean, like they're actually the people who aren't, the subjects, or
I see what you're saying.
The people who are getting in the talmidim, I guess.
Oh, interesting. So we're differentiating them between the poor people being the victim. Like, okay, so the way we were talking about it from now, but until now, is these people are using lashon hara to take advantage of the poor, and you're suggesting maybe that the lashon hara is being spoken about them. Yeah.
Or the ones receiving.
Right.
And I mean, it's like affecting the world. They're not necessarily people.
That's interesting. Okay, so I mean, that can definitely happen in many ways. Like, let's say you end up destroying all the tzaddikim through your lashon hara, and now no one's taking care of the poor. Right.
There's the lashon hara speakers. There's the regular people.
Right.
And then there's no tzaddikim.
Right. Okay. That's a good. All right. That's a good possibility. I hadn't thought of that either. Right. So the poor are the bystanders who get affected.
And then therefore it affects everything.
Yeah. Right. And then look, if you look at David Melech, if this is about David Melech's life in some way, so David is a righteous king. Okay. In fact, he's the standard of righteous kings. So that's how if you want to know who the righteous kings are in the Tanakh, you just look at anyone who it says, and so was righteous like David. Okay, and like they're all compared to David if they're righteous, and if not, then yeah. So if there's no David, then some evil king is going to be there, and if some evil king is going to be there, then the poor are going to suffer the most because the society is going to suffer in general, and the poor are taking the brunt of it. Yeah, Isaiah.
I had a different approach.
Okay.
All
these different approaches. I mean, it's not bad. It's just like you see how difficult it is. Yeah.
I'm not sure it's just like a more general version of what everyone else is saying.
Okay.
But I was thinking like, what's the thing that allows like the lashon hara to take root in the world, and that allows oppression to, or allows poor people to like exist?
Yeah.
Is people being blind to like the truth of the situation. Is the truth like in lashon hara, it's like literally people are hiding the truth.
Yeah.
And speaking like they're smooth talking, like they're speaking falsehood.
Yeah.
And in terms of poor people, like there's a reality that we should all provide for everyone, and like everyone should, people shouldn't suffer in poverty.
Yeah.
But that is like hidden from our eyes and allows us to like allow poverty to exist. So maybe like what David is, asking Hashem to do is to bring the truth of the situation to light, so that people are saved by us.
Yeah.
And I think that's maybe what it means when he says that Hashem is saying that our pure sayings. It's that like people recognize reality, then they would help these people, and they wouldn't be able to speak lashon hara because they would know reality.
Yeah.
And so the being purified like 7 times is that like the more reality there is recognized, then the less these type of oppressions can occur. Like
Yeah.
the less these distortions exist because there's more reality.
Okay, so let me support your approach. Your approach is the one I wanted to take. Okay, was not successful in it, and I want to support it with the Yirmiyahu that I read last time, the Haftorah of Tisha B'Av in chapter 9. There are a couple phrases here that like support what Isaiah is saying. So v'yadruchu es lashonam, they guide their tongues. Kashtam sheker, their bow is falsehood. Velo le'emuna gavru ba'aretz, they don't prevail on earth because of trustworthiness. Ki me'ra el ra yatzau, they go from evil to evil. Ve'osi lo yada'u nu'mar Hashem, they don't know me. Right? So it's associating a lack of Yedias Hashem with falsehood and doing evil. Okay, that's the trifecta that I really would like to try to get, which is what you're suggesting, right? Okay. Furthermore, in chapter 9 in Yirmiyahu, later on, it says, this is a better one. Shivtecha b'sof mirma, you dwell amid deceit. B'mirma me'anu da'as osinu Hashem. In deceit, you refuse to know me, says Hashem. Okay. Which I think the Radak says, Kol kach gadlu b'mirma ad sheme'anu l'das osi v'lo yuchlu lahaniach darcham hara. That they've gone so great in deceit that they refuse to know me and they cannot abandon their evil way. Okay. And remember, then the end is where it talks about the ideal is Haskav Yodo Osi, is Yedias Hashem. Okay, so that's connected. And then there's one more, hold on a second. There is a pasuk that I wish everyone said a lot. If I ask you what Yedias Hashem is, you'd probably be like, oh, it's like knowing Torah and science, right? Because that's like what we say around here, right? But which is true. But check out this pasuk in Yirmiyahu, if I can find it. Yeah. Dan din ani ve'evyon az tov halo hi hadas osinu Hashem. Okay, judging the poor, which means like judging to like award them what they deserve, and the destitute, then it will be good. Isn't that knowing me, says Hashem? So Hashem is equating Yedias Hashem with helping the poor, and that is consistent with the end of Yirmiyahu, which is that it's Haskav Yodo Osi, ki ani Hashem oseh chesed mishpat u'tzedakah v'aretz. Yedias Hashem should culminate in like caring for the poor and doing chesed tzedakah and mishpat. Okay, so this is what I really, really want to develop the perek in, is that there's some correlation between a culture in which people are engaged in falsehood, okay, and covering up truths. Somehow that leads to a lack of like knowledge of Hashem and his ways, which filters down into like refusing to help the poor, and like it's a toxic cycle somehow. I just couldn't develop it, but That's like the direction that you're saying, or am I missing? Okay.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. All right.
The Greeks did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't they hide knowledge and they didn't want to, you know, for the progression of like math? Wasn't that one of the reasons why like they, or you know, it's fine.
Okay. I don't know. I'm not familiar with those Greeks. Yeah. Kiva.
You're saying it lead to it, or is that
I'm saying that
one-to-one
they're
kind of-
causes and effects, meaning that a lack of Yedias Hashem will cause you to oppress the poor, okay? Because you're not going to be focused on Hashem's ways and then implementing them, but also you will, in order to uphold your oppression of the poor, you will refuse to know Hashem. Because if you really had Yedias Hashem, that forces you to confront that you're engaged in something wrong. So like each one, it's like a vicious cycle. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Ayala.
Okay, so I think what I was thinking is very much in line with like what Isaiah was saying, and it was based off of Tamar.
We got Isaiah, Yirmiyahu, and Ayala. Okay, that's three on.
Also, so it was based off of Ariel and Tamar's idea of like them seeing themselves as like above everyone, kind of.
Yeah.
And I wanted to contrast Pasuk 5 with 7.
Okay.
And I feel like in 5, when they say, with our tongues we will prevail, our lips are with us, who is Lord over us?
Yeah.
It's like very much like that haughty aspect of like themselves, their wants, their desires, and their words and speech and thoughts are like the ultimate reality. And like that is the truth.
Yeah.
And that's what they're using. So, but it's obviously distortion of reality.
Right.
But because they're seeing it as reality, like they're speaking Lashon Hara and they're doing all that stuff. And then also their wants and desires are reality. So they're gonna oppress the poor. Whereas on the other side, Hashem's sayings are pure sayings, refined. So like kind of the mashal of refined, saying that like they think that whatever just pops into their head or whatever they think is reality, but like it's not something as simple as that. Like it's much deeper and more precious kind of.
Okay, good. All right, so let me restate and add on to that. So this is another fundamental approach that I wanted to take. Okay, so there are lots of ways to deny God. Okay, but we see that Lashon Hara is one of them, and I'll just reread this, even though I think I read it last time. But in Hilchos Deos Zayin Gimel, the Rambam quotes Chazal saying, Kol hamasaper b'lashon hara kilu kafar be'ikar. Anyone who speaks lashon hara, it's as if he denies God's existence. Shneimar, and he quotes our pasuk 5. Asher amru li l'shanim nagbir sivseinu tanmi adon lano. So how is lashon hara tantamount to kfira? So I think it's like Ayala is saying, is that and kol hamagbia libo. Oh wait, I think he says also by someone who's a bal gaiva.
So anger also, right?
Yeah, so it's funny. Anger is like worshiping Avodah Zarah, and haughtiness is like kofar b'ikar. I think that's the case.
This is also in line with that pasuk you just showed us. You know, like knowing me is like, you know, caring for the poor.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't
correct.
Poor, that's oppression.
Amru shekol hamagbia libo kofar b'ikar. Okay, so these guys have got two things going for them, that they're in a bad way. they're haughty and they speak lashon hara, and both of those are equal to being kofar b'ikar. So how does that work? So speech is something that makes you feel like you can produce reality. Okay, why? Because you change people's minds.
Yeah.
So, and you can distort what people think, and what people think is what they treat as reality. And not only that, but you can actually make things happen with your speech, right? That's like, there's probably like a time in human development where like when a kid first figures out that he can lie, it's like the ultimate power, because he can control what people think and do and make stuff happen just based on like a whim, you know? You remember that moment? Yeah.
I'd rather not say.
Okay, yeah.
It's not great.
Oh wow, that's a late bloomer, but yeah. I was thinking more like a 3-year-old or something like that. Yeah. So this feeds this idea that like I can create my own reality, and as long as I don't get caught, then I am God, you know. And that can be used to justify a lot of destruction and oppression. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on, someone actually told me this yesterday. Like, people feel important when they have something to say.
Yeah.
You know, like it's almost like a god. It's almost like a god complex.
It is. Yeah, it is. Now, the second point Ayala made of the Hashem sayings are pure sayings. So this is Ken's point plus my point. Okay. Ken's point was that when it comes to truth, you need a process. You don't just instantly make your statements true. You need to go through a process of refining. Now, God doesn't need to do that. And this is where I'm going to make my point, which is that whenever we describe Hashem's actions, we should have a halachta b'drachav lesson from it, that of how to emulate God's ways. So really, it's saying this for us, which is that God's sayings are pure. And if you want to emulate that, you're going to need to constantly be refining your statements. Like there are a lot of us, hopefully all of us, who like don't consciously lie in order to get advantages, but that doesn't mean you're an honest person, because there's still many layers of distortion that unless you consciously try to like identify and remove, you're going to be operating that distorted way. So you have to constantly go through this refining process in order to have true speech. Kal v'chomer, if you're in this environment where everyone is lying, right? If everyone is lying, like I posted, did I post this in the chat? No, I don't think I posted this in the chat. I was watching a interview with Ricky Gervais, the comedian, and the interview was an older interview, and it was talking about how he hosted the Golden Globes a lot, and he makes a lot of these like very aggressive jokes, So he said the statement in the interview. He said, "You think what I'm saying is bad. You should know what I'm thinking and not saying, And that made me realize that like an environment where, someone who was a comedian who was like making aggressive jokes and stuff, training his mouth to mock people is going to affect his thinking. So if you're in an environment where everyone is speaking Lashon Hara, you're going to be thinking distorted thoughts without even being able to control it. So it's a much more uphill battle that David has to go against. Yeah, Chizkiah.
Just to clarify your question, your statement about that you're not necessarily an honest person if you have, well, I guess you said distortions, or maybe you said you haven't done the work to clarify that. So does that mean that if you're misinformed or not even misinformed, it's like you're just not aware that there's a point to be clear on in the first place? It's just not a thought. Yeah,
I mean that is number one, is make sure that you understand what's being said. But I'm going more into like I'll take Rabbi Moskowitz's refutation of Torah Sinai. that there's the argument of Torah Sinai, right? And the way that Rebbe presents it is that Rebbe shows in the essay about how we evaluate firsthand knowledge and how we evaluate secondhand knowledge. Okay, and he says that with secondhand knowledge, with firsthand knowledge, it's true because you directly perceive it, right? I know that there is a computer in front of me because I see it. Okay, but with secondhand knowledge, then you actually have to. Secondhand knowledge could be false, right? So, but the thing is, it could only be false for one of two reasons: either the person who told it to you is making a mistake, or they're lying. So, if you could rule out mistakes and lies, then you can infer that the statement is true, right? So if Isaiah walks in from outside and says it's raining, okay, so I ask myself, how likely is it that he's making a mistake? So rain is a relatively simple phenomenon to perceive, so it's not likely he's making a mistake. And then is he lying? Well, I know Isaiah and I know that he doesn't lie, or he's just a very good liar, and I've never seen him lie. But so he doesn't lie. And if I didn't know him, the question would be like, does he have a motive to lie? Presumably not. And if many people told me that it's raining outside, then I would assume that they're all telling the truth, because mass conspiracy is absurd. So then Rabbi Chait shows how if you apply this reasoning to the claim of Torah Sinai, then you can infer that the claim is true. Okay, so that all works out logically. But Rabbi Moskowitz says the reason why. So why don't people believe in the argument, or why don't people believe Torah? Because people don't do this with everyday speech. Okay, who do you know, including yourself, that anytime someone says something, you go through this process and you say consciously, like, okay, is the statement, is the phenomenon easy to perceive, and do they have a motive to lie, and how complex is it? People don't do this, and therefore, even though logically Torah Sinai works out, it's not real to you, because you don't engage in this in everyday statements. Okay, so as an example, I'm saying like we accept lashon hara all the time because we don't engage in this process when someone tells us something juicy about someone else, So that would be a process of refining our thoughts. So there's what Chizkiyahu said is what is being said here, what is being claimed. Then there's the question of, is there a basis for it? Then there's the question of, is this the complete picture? Maybe there's some other fact here to account for it. Then there's the question of like, what am I going to do with the information? Like, so what, all of these processes of like, are my own emotions blinding me? Maybe I am the one who's distorting it, but people don't do this. And so therefore, if you're in an environment where people are not critical in that way, then there's just all this falsehood going on that it's not just simple to say, I want to speak the truth. You actually have to like work on it and refine it. Is that
okay,
yeah.
Half. So
okay.
you're, when you say you can still be a dishonest person, I guess, in the sense that you're not careful in how you discriminate information coming to you.
Yeah.
And so, but are you necessarily or not necessarily saying that if you just are unaware of a philosophical truth or whatever, that inherently that will also make you a dishonest person?
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay.
But you know who's going to say that? The Malbim. Okay, he's going to say something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the difference? Is there a difference between lashon hara and lying? And if so, what is it?
Yeah. So so here's the thing. Here's the problem. The problem is that there's lashon hara in the technical halachic sense, and then lashon hara is sometimes used as a catch-all for everything. So the technical definition is there's three levels. There's rechilus, which is gossip, which is selectively reporting on details about other people in a potentially harmful way. Okay, but it's true. Lashon hara is degrading speech that's true, and moti shemra is degrading speech which is false.
So this one's talking about the third category?
So this is talking, so this could be talking about all three categories, because lashon hara is degrading, and it's true in the sense that what you're saying is true, but it's false in the sense that you're still distorting the person, Like if you say that this person, like if like let's say, I don't know, let's say some teacher gives you a bad grade on a paper and you say like so-and-so was so mean. Okay. So maybe that statement is true, but you're saying it to degrade this person as like a mean person, Yeah.
Now, another question is, I don't know if this is a fair question to ask in this Tehilim, but what's so appealing about lashon hara such that like the entire nation can fall prey to it?
That's a great question. Yeah, that is a good question.
I don't know if it's a question to ask in this year, but
so I'll just say a quick idea that we said in Rambam B'Kiyos today, which is that that lashon hara is equated by Chazal to avodah zara, Gilui Arayos, and Shvichus Damim, right? So the big three, right? Avodah zara, idolatry, the prohibited sexual relations, and murder. So we said that it seems like the main idea there is that lashon hara, that it partakes of the three similarities to these. Avodah zara, because you're projecting your own psychological reality onto objective reality. That's what avodah zara is, and that's what you're doing with lashon hara. Gilui Arayos, because you are indulging in the speech because of the pleasure. Okay, and the Gilui Arayos is ultimately about like the illicit pleasure, and then Shvichus Damim because of the aggression or the harm. So it satisfies all three. That's the short answer. But okay. So I want to say one more half-baked idea. Okay, and then I want to go to the Malbim. Okay, here's another half-baked idea, and I might have mentioned this last time, but this was Johnny's idea. So it's possible, we noted that some of the meforshim said that the reason why David has to say Hashem's sayings are pure, one of the meforshim said that that's talking about the statements of now I will arise, I will firmly establish salvation. Okay, so Johnny wanted to say that in a society where you can't trust anybody and everyone's constantly lying to you, it's going to affect your ability to trust Hashem. And that's why David Melech has to reiterate that no, these guys you can't trust, but you can trust Hashem, and Hashem will stand by his word. That also seems like it has really, really good potential to like be a major idea in the perek.
So why would you think that it's a reflection of Hashem? Because
if you, in the same way, lahavdil, as like, let's say kids who were mistreated when they were growing up, they grow up with trust issues for everyone, right? Because the way that their parents treated them becomes like a paradigm for how they relate to all other human beings. Definitely that's the case with Hashem, is that the way you relate to your parents is gonna, well, not the way you relate to your parents, the way you relate to your parents and your society is gonna be a paradigm for how you relate to Hashem. So if everyone around you is saying things that you can't trust and they're betraying you. So then when Hashem says, oh, don't worry, I'll save you, it's going to be easy to not trust him. Because you've been primed that way. You can't trust anybody.
Okay, I hear, I understand.
Yeah.
It. I also see it from a different perspective where like, because we happen to be Hashem's people, you know, so like, that's a reflection of, even to the outside world.
Yeah.
You know, that we're representing Hashem, so. But I also hear from.
Right, yeah, outside world I think is less relevant here. This seems to be within, yeah. Okay, so these are all great, have ideas that I feel like have so much potential, yeah, Ayala?
Some methodological question.
Yeah.
What makes, like, some of these ideas seem like pretty full to me, I guess. So what makes them not?
Okay, I thought you were gonna say that. I thought you were gonna say methodological question. Why are you giving shiur in this perek if you can't even like finish the idea? You know? Yeah. You see how insecure I am about this.
I was gonna ask that, but I decided not to.
Yeah, so they seem full. Okay, look. This is a problem / a normal thing that I have, which is, and I think this came up in Monday Night Mishlei a couple times, which is that, you know, the question is, what is a chiddush, right? So chiddush means a new or a novel insight, but that's going to depend on where you're at in your knowledge, you know? So for you know, certain people, based on how much they've gone into these topics, these might be chidushim, and that might be enough to say that that's what the perek is about. For me, there's two things lacking. Number one is, for me, these are all like somewhat old ideas, except for that last one, okay? And also with Isaiah's is like excuse me, that's an old idea, but one I sense like a way to develop. So I want more out of the idea. And the other thing also is for me, the test of the idea is like, I can read the perek and I'm like, oh, that's what it's telling me. And like, I get the insight and like, that's what it's for. I'm not getting that like sense of closure of like, oh, we answered Adler's question 1 and question 4. So like, I feel like I need more out of the perek. So maybe that's me, and if it's not for you, then great, you know, but yeah.
Just to build on that, on her question.
Yeah.
So what exactly are we missing in our approaches such that we can help?
That's a great question. What are we missing in our approaches? So let me see if I can put that into words, because if I can't, then maybe we're not missing anything.
Because I like to tackle the problem, and I want to.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
We just give up.
Yeah. So let's state what we have. I feel like there are two like very ripe ideas, which are that a society dominated by lashon hara speakers will harm the poor, and Hashem doesn't want that to happen and will respond. That's like one approach, okay? And the reason why that is because the lashon hara speakers feel like they can get away with it, and that the only thing that matters is the reality that they shape and create with their own tongues, and they deny God. They feel like God doesn't exist because they're the ones creating the reality, and you know, and they can get away with it. That's like one approach. And what's lacking there, I still feel like 7 and 8 and 9 are not being addressed. Like, why are we talking about Hashem's pure sayings? And what is that last pasuk saying? You know, and you know, I feel like what the main idea I just said is good for the first like 6, but I feel like we're not getting that end part. And then the second major approach is Isaiah's and Yirmiyahu's and Ayala's approach, which is that in a world of lashon hara speaking, then Yedias Hashem will be blocked, and the lack of Yedias Hashem will result in an abuse of the poor, which will only embolden the lashon hara speakers to deny Hashem more, and that'll lead to a vicious cycle. And I feel like the same, and I feel like there's more potential for Hashem's sayings. So then you say Hashem's sayings are talking about the Torah, you know, and that's going to be the antidote. But then I feel like we're not bringing it home.
So what's lacking?
So then like, you know, this well, I feel like there's a lack in the clarity of the idea. Like, what are we asking Hashem to do? You know, exactly. And there's still a question that kind of bothers me about what David said about like, what about the Mishlei consequences? Why are we asking Hashem to intervene? And then also a question I still feel bothered by, like, I don't know, maybe this is just hyperbole, but like, no one righteous is here. I don't know, something about that bothers me. Yeah, Akiva?
This is for the last question.
Yeah.
For 14. Didn't we already kind of say that it affects other people? So unless that's just part of.
Oh, that is true. Yeah, I mean, I think there are.
Them destroy each other while they destroy everybody else.
Yeah, right. That's what meaning. It'd be good if they were brought down and everyone else be saved. That's a good answer. That's true. Yeah. Tamar.
Wait, sorry, I didn't 100% hear that. Was he saying asking God to cause the Lashon Hara speakers to fail?
Yeah, because it's true that they're going to destroy themselves, but a lot of people are going to get hurt in the process. And also, this might take a very long time. And I was trying to think of examples of this. Any communist society, I think like in Soviet Russia or whatever, I think that's a good example of this. In China also, where like there's this environment, North Korea, there's this environment where no one can trust anyone else because everyone is just going to report on everyone else and slander everyone else. And it takes a lot to topple that, and it could take generations, So like asking Hashem to do something is warranted.
Can I answer?
Yeah, Tamar and then Ayala and then back to Ariel.
Okay. Just a point. Maybe somebody said this before. I'm not sure, but for 2.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe
Question 2 or pasuk 2?
Oh, pasuk 2.
Yeah.
Just this idea that Lashon Hara is very like poisonous, like the way that it's bad for you if you hear it, even if you didn't volunteer to hear it.
Right.
That maybe is like right, like maybe this is what you were saying before, but that in this environment of Lashon Hara, it's maybe not possible to have someone be a chassid.
Right. Okay, right. In other words, the problem is so bad that even the people who endeavor to do good and to be honest and stuff like that are being affected. Yeah, that's good. So it doesn't mean that it's hopeless. It just means that these people are, if you're a potential chassid, like all of the women who attend my Thursday night Pirkei Avos class where we learn how to be a chassid, then you're going to be stunted in your growth in an environment where everyone is peddling sheker. Yeah, Ayala.
So maybe to connect that idea with Johnny's idea with pasuk chet.
Yeah.
So, I think if I understood what Johnny was saying correctly, is that like when everyone is speaking falsehood and Lashon Hara, it's like almost impossible for someone to have true ideas.
Yeah.
So I think also, so we're asking Hashem, there's like no one else righteous right now. And there's like, it's hopeless. There's like no way not no possible really way, but like almost no way for anyone to like emerge knowing truth and understanding Hashem from that. And maybe that's saying like, if you don't intervene right now, lit olam, it's going to be gone. So yeah, you have to save this generation. So that way the olam, it's not lost.
That's
like,
good.
Isn't lost.
That is a very good interpretation. And I think it also fits in with preserving him. What we're saying is that this is a kind of a radical reading, but because it should be them if he's talking about protecting the anim, but the him could be the chassid, that is being affected adversely by the society of the wicked, so that the chassid could then go and protect the poor, and reverse the trend. Interesting. Ariel and then Chaim and then Chizkiah.
A combination of what Tamar and Ayala were saying. I kind of want to take it as a hyperbole.
Okay. The 2. Pasuk 2.
Yeah. There's a hyperbole.
Yeah.
But I also want to say that that pasuk 7 is almost like an affirmation, to the Indian, to the people who are being oppressed.
Yeah.
Like, look, like we are living in a horrible time right now, but don't worry.
Yeah.
Like there's still an objective reality.
Yeah. Right. Okay? Yeah. I think that's a good approach. Right.
Now, pasuk 8 is, you Hashem will guard them, meaning like that's a tefillah to the people being oppressed. And I do think that you will preserve him because, and this could be what Ayala was saying about I'm sure there are tzaddikim there.
Yeah.
Maybe there are even chassidim.
Yeah.
But it's so overwhelming that they're not as prominent, being able to, help in that society.
Yeah.
So it's possible preserving him and his, nefesh or whatever, so he doesn't get corrupted in that generation. And the wicked will walk around. I don't know. Yeah,
that one's a hard one. I just want to make just one point to insert here that Ken made as a standalone point, is that there is one advantage. This is going to sound really bad. There's one advantage that the poor has going for him, which is that because the poor has all the stuff taken away and he's in a powerless place, he's not going to be as tempted to engage in falsehood as the Rishaim in the society. So that puts him on the side where he's closer to Hashem's values. Okay, not that we want to be poor in a case like that. Okay, Chaim?
Well, now I have 2 points. One, I want to question that last thing you just said. Is that true? That poor people are more likely to not be, I don't know, I forgot the word you used, but
yeah, I think so. If the motive for the lying here is so that you can steal from people and increase your power, so the poor people who are really being victimized, then they are. I'm not saying that they're not going to lie. I'm saying that they have the power. The power trip is what makes you lie to get more power, and the more powerless you are, then the less you're going to be in a position where you're tempted to lie in these ways.
okay, yeah, fine. I guess from the power perspective, then definitely. Okay.
Yeah.
But no, the other thing was like when Tamar was saying the thing about it would be difficult or almost impossible, if not impossible, to have a society that's so I guess devolved, produce something like a chassid. Like I just like I associated to like Noach. There's like the whole
Yeah.
whether or not like tzaddik bedoro means that he wasn't actually a tzaddik, and it was just that he was like,
The best of the bunch.
best of the worst, right?
Yeah, right.
Like thinking about that, I'm just like, I don't know where I was going to go from that, aside from just say that I would have.
Okay, no, that's yeah. That was a situation where the Hamas was made everything hopeless. Also, yeah. You're muted.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Also tying to the idea that the environment makes it pretty much impossible either to produce a chassid, or also maybe even if there really is a chassid or a tzaddik there, it's just like you're not going to be in this state where you can trust or assume that that person is one. And the reason for that is because when you're in an environment where it's reasonable to be worried about your own safety concerns, whatever, you have to assume everyone else has to look out for themselves first.
Right.
And one of the interesting and unique things, obviously there's many, but one of the, I would say, like in this pasuk, or the relevant unique things about Hashem is because nothing can harm him, he also has no reason.
Right. He has no motive to lie.
Right. He has no motive to lie. And he's only, and in fact, even just philosophically for why he would even create us is only to do good, right, for us. And so part of, I think, what we're sort of asking him to do with the whole guarding us is, we're asking him directly, like the action is to preserve us and to either put us in a state where we can see that he's the only one that ultimately is controlling the situation or whatever, and that we are protected by him. But even more than that, it's preserving the truth in that idea, that because we're talking about our neshamas ultimately, and so it's preserve us from falling into the trap and to the belief there's only this kind of world. And so, like as Johnny said, to the point where I could even save me from even relating to you that way. That everything is,
So that's a good contrast to again, I'm going to go ahead with the meteors because I think that is the cleanest shot here. It's contrast to 9 that he's saying preserve him from this generation, meaning keep his values, keep the chassid's values, truth, and like not being influenced by these bad guys in a situation where the wicked walk around and baseness is exalted. Like where they are taking baseness and elevating it to a value, a positive value. And in that environment, then the chassid needs help to preserve his valuing of truth. So we're getting closer to, I feel like this is getting closer to like the approach that Isaiah is developing in terms of the truth factor here. Let's go Akiva, then Isaiah, then Ariel, and then Malbim maybe. But yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah, I mean, I would rather us develop our own ideas than yeah.
Just as far as question 7.
Yeah.
I think maybe the reason is similar to what you're saying.
Yeah.
But in a world where there is, you're saying the baseness is exalted and they're at that level. Yeah. There's basically no zuchus or anything, I guess, positive. Yeah. To appeal to, that maybe that was appealing to, like maybe because they're less involved with lashon hara, but maybe just appealing to like Hashem's mercy. Right. Yeah. That's like the only thing left. There's no one's right. The zuchus have been depleted, and therefore, like just saving the oppressed is the only thing. Yeah. The second one is it seems to me like 4 would be the turning point, just because that's where his request starts. He's describing. Yeah, that definitely does make sense. Yeah, I still think that is viable. Yeah, yeah, still kind of undecided. I myself. Yeah. Yeah, maybe this is what Akiva just said. But like with pasuk 9, it seems like it's saying that like as long as
as long as things like lashon hara are like a value in society, then like there will continue to be like evil people, and there will continue to be a threat to like us and to like everybody, to society and to the chassid.
Yeah.
And so like he'll continue to need Hashem's guarding, because like the people are still around. So like as long as that's a societal thing, then that's still gonna be a problem. And we're still gonna need this like prayer for help.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna comment on that. Is that a leftover hand or is that a new hand? Okay, Tamar. I'm going to comment on that when I summarize what we're doing.
Okay, I have a question, but if you're going to talk about what he just said, I can wait.
Okay, so let me attempt now to answer our questions, and maybe we did learn this perek. Okay, so what is emerging is that the perek is about. Let me just try it out. Okay, I don't know if this is going to actually work. Okay, so the perek is talking about a case where everyone around you, whether this is hyperbole or like literally everyone, the predominant quality of the society is no one cares about the truth, and they're all just using their God-given ability of speech to warp reality for their advantage, even at the expense of the poor. Okay, so in that situation, it's tempting to want to just ask God to help save the poor. But how is God going to actually end up helping? By helping foster people with the opposite values. Okay, so you as the chassid who recognizes this, you might not be a chassid, but you recognize that this is a bad thing going on and that it's affecting you. So what you need to ask Hashem to do is you need to ask Hashem to help you to strengthen your midah of emunah meaning trustworthiness, and focus on emes. And that is going to be the means of you being able to like resist the influence of the bad people and then also help the poor. In other words, like we say Hashiva Shoftenu in Shemona Esrei, restore these righteous judges, because we recognize that the problems in the society stem from the fact that the people in charge of justice are corrupt. And so the first step has to be make sure that there are people who have a sense of justice and who are able to influence everyone else. Then they can help the poor people. So I'm getting that that's what the unity of the perek is about. And to answer Adler's question number 4 of so what? So when we say this perek, like what would be the takeaway? So the takeaway is it's very easy to complain about everybody like engaged in falsehood, and like whether it's like politicians or like in social circles, like people like gossiping and spreading rumors about each other. But how is God going to help that situation? Primarily through you being v'halachta b'drachav. You have to engage in identifying what's wrong with lashon hara and how does that affect you adversely, and how can you distance yourself from that. That is going to be the way that God helps you with that. So that's like my close summary of what we've got so far. Okay, Tamar had something she wanted to say, and then we'll go to Ariel, and then we'll go to Chaim. Yeah,
I think this is directly related to what you were saying. So I'm just looking at the things that we're asking Hashem to do in the perek. So it does seem like we're asking Hashem to support and preserve the chassid in his chassidness, but it looks like we're also asking Hashem to intervene in society. I mean, maybe you could talk about this all being through the chassid, but I don't know if you have to say that in terms of the cutting off the smooth talking lips and something that seems to have to do with the poor also.
Right. Well, so here, this is the interesting thing. I do think that there's a way to read it where the only thing we're actually asking Hashem to do is to help the chassid, okay? Because you have this, save Hashem for the chassid has come to an end, the faithful vanish from mankind. So that's asking Hashem to restore the chassid and the faithful, okay? May Hashem cut off all smooth talking lips. So that is talking about ending this evil trend of lashon hara and falsehood in society. Okay, because of the poor, because of the outcry of the destitute, Hashem responds, and that's like what we were saying before. That's what's getting, like Akiva was saying, that's what's getting Hashem to actually respond. But then we're asking Hashem to guard his pure sayings, okay, which is going to be in the mind of the person who cares about truth, and then preserve him, the guy who cares about this. The chassid from the generation that is exalting baseness. So we never actually ask Hashem to save the poor. Now, yeah, I realize you can read 8 to say Hashem will guard the poor, but I like this reading better. Okay,
Can I continue to
yeah.
ask about this, or is that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. In this situation, it seems like it would help if Hashem hastened the downfall of the people who are speaking Lashon Hara, or right, or these evil people who are doing various evil things. But do you think that that's a separate idea that's not being requested here, or?
I mean, it could be that is what is being requested in May Hashem cut off all smooth talking lips, a tongue that speaks, grandiloquently, that he's asking for the destruction of those people. Like, I wouldn't rule that out.
That's what it seemed like to me. I don't know if you were saying specifically to exclude that, or if that was just not.
Yeah, no, and I think it's asking for their destruction, but it's asking specifically for the destruction of their falsehood, because that's the focus of the perek. Ariel.
Yeah, it's interesting the way you summarized it, answering question number 4.
Yeah,
it's funny. Like, I was kind of taking either the Tzion or the Targum as as helping them out, as helping the chassid out, because I was going to tie that back as an additional type of affirmation, like number 6, like pasuk 7, because look, the reality is we're in a really bad situation right now.
Yeah,
they're all wicked, but there are times where this happens, where this scenario happens.
Yeah,
and you just have to just kind of just suck it up. In a way.
Like a leech.
Yeah, exactly. Like a leech. Unfortunately, this is a situation, but don't let it, don't let it tell you to either be like them or abandon your situation, or whatever it is. You just have to kind of do what is appropriate, or continue doing what you're doing.
Yeah, it's hard to read that as affirmation. I know that's fine.
Or it's a tefillah. It's a tefillah.
Yeah.
It's like.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I hear that. What was that? Okay. Chaim.
Yeah, my first thing I was gonna say was I think you said it was a read of pasuk 8, which is that Hashem's guarding them, i.e. the people who's being guarded in this perek, and then preserving him is talking about the chassid and the people who are going to bring about that salvation.
Yeah.
But I think about that. And then I was wondering, in pasuk 6, can we read when Hashem says Hashem, I will firmly establish salvation, he will utter regarding him. Can that be regarding the chassid, or is that regarding, I feel like I was reading it before as regarding the people who are being downtrodden?
Yeah.
But
that's a word.
I blanked on every single word for
okay.
Yeah, I blanked on all of them. But could you say regarding him is really God talking about him establishing salvation, which is the chassid?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, I totally missed that. Yeah, that's a good read. Okay. Yeah, okay. Akiva.
When he says in 8 that you will guard them, is that not talking about the sayings?
I think it's talking about the sayings. Yeah.
Which is that to say that to show that why they're pure, meaning in contrast to the falsehood?
So the way I'm saying it right now is Hashem's sayings is referring to all the teachings of the Torah that are going to be the ticket out of this bad false value system, and that guarding them is asking God to guard them. You can even say this is a tefillah, right? Because this is in the future tense. So I would say the better thing is, may you guard them, Hashem. May you preserve him from this generation forever. So guarding the true sayings means keep that truth accessible to the guy who is seeking the truth, and help him to access them and be influenced by them.
The sayings aren't necessarily the ones that we.
Oh yeah, necessarily. Yeah, the sayings I'm saying now. The sayings are not. I will arise. The sayings are the sayings of Hashem. Yeah. Tamar.
I want to attempt to synthesize what I was saying with pasuk 4 now. Sure. With this approach a little bit more clearly, perhaps. Which is, so the person who's the chassid or the close to chassid or something, he needs Hashem's help because he's being affected by the on right? Because he has this destructive relationship to truth. So I think it would be, even in that vein, I think it would be on theme or whatever for him to ask Hashem to help fix the society by causing the downfall of the prominent.
Okay, that's good. That is a smoother synthesis, right? Meaning the cause the thing that's blocking him from developing as a chassid is all these false people. So asking Hashem to bring them down is good.
Can we do them all?
I think we're not out of time for the Malbim tonight. I want to end off with one thing that Chaim, did you send me this from Rabbi Trachman, the Rabbeinu Nisim on the?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So this is on that pasuk we started off with in Mishpatim about God helping the widow and the orphan. I just want to see if it's relevant. So what is it? So if you look at the pasuk, it sounds like Hashem is going to kill the people who oppress the orphan and the widow, right? 22, I should get it this time, right? 21 is where it starts. Yeah, 21 is where it starts. So it sounds like it's saying God is going to get angry and kill these guys. So Rabbi Trachman sent to me via the agency of Chaim Zifkin this thing from Rabbeinu Nisim of Girona, who says, Gam efshar she'amar zeh lefi sheyitachin sheyakum yom hanigzal v'ha'anus al ha'ones v'yarev lo v'yaragehu. So it's possible that a day will arise when the person who was robbed and who was oppressed will get up and kill the guy who killed him. Okay, never mind. This is not relevant. I don't want to project this in. Never mind. This is not. I don't know if this is relevant. Okay, fine. So I think what we're gonna have to do is I think we got an understanding of the pasuk. Okay. Here's the thing, though, is I don't know if I want to spend a third week on this. The Malbim is great. Okay. I'll give you a teaser for the Malbim. I'll give you a teaser for the Malbim. The Malbim learns that it is about people who distort Torah through philosophically rationalizing their own beliefs and their own values. And then he says that results in problems vis-a-vis God, and then also them taking advantage of the poor. And then that's what he learns the whole thing is about. So it's worth learning, but I think we should move on to something else next week.
But are you satisfied today?
I am satisfied now. Yes, I am satisfied now. I think the idea is good. Yeah, I still want to think about it some more, but I think we actually did reach a development, and I thank you all for contributing to that. That was very good. Yeah. Yeah, our lips are with us. Okay. All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll take requests for the next perek, by the way. All right. So let me know. Let me know before Sunday, before Shabbos, ideally.